Hey everyone, it's JP from Land and Title, and on this week's video we're just going to be talking about the services and utilities and sort of the systems around that you can expect on a rural property or a country home. So let's dive into that. First thing we're going to talk about is heating the property. So in a lot of rural properties and country homes, you're going to get probably, I would say the majority is more propane and oil. You will get some natural gas, but that propane and oil is probably going to be your two biggest things. And don't be afraid of oil. It's very common on rural properties. And then the other thing too is you may find supplementary heat and maybe an addition on a home or something that is electric, so don't be afraid of that either. A little bit rare these days to find fully electric heat in homes, although they are out there. And then of course people will often supplement with wood, so a wood stove or a pellet stove. And often that's a nice feature in a rural property anyways that you would want. And then also, if the property is new enough, or rather the house is new enough, you might get lucky to find something that has geothermal heating or passive solar design. And of course, if you are just going to build, then you can explore those as possible options as well. The second thing we're going to talk about is water. So if you're close enough to town or right on the edges of town, you might be in a position where you can connect to a city water line if it's on your road. Chances are probably not. You're going to be looking at either well water or a cistern. So a well, if you're either building a home, you're going to have to check to make sure that there is adequate water. There's going to be test drilling and all sorts of due diligence you're going to need to do. And of course, if it's resale, you're going to be, again, testing the water that is coming out of that well, making sure that it is drinkable, it's safe, and there's adequate supply. And if you don't have the possibility, or the property doesn't have already a well in place, then you're going to be looking at a cistern. So if the property already has a cistern, you know that there is no opportunity for a well there, and that would be a cistern is where you're trucking in water, just like you would get water from the city on demand. In this case, you're just getting a truckload of water and sticking it basically in a big tank and then using it that way. Next thing is going to be the sewage and how you're going to handle that. So again, chances are, I mean, if you're lucky, you're going to be close enough to maybe tap into the sewer line of the city, but the vast majority of rural country home properties, you're going to be looking at a septic system. So that is where there's a holding tank for the waste, and then there's basically like a leaching field where it goes through the process of basically diffusing the solids from the liquids, and then every so often you're going to have a guy come in with a big vacuum on a truck, and he's just going to suck all that contents out of all the solid waste out of the tank. So that's how you handle the sewage through a septic system in a rural property. And the last thing we're going to talk about is electricity. So the vast majority of properties are going to be tied to the electrical grid. There is going to be a hydro line, whether it's overground, underground, or on the road you're on. Very rare is it going to be a problem where you can't get tied to the electrical grid. Most people are going to need to be tied to the electrical grid just for the electricity needs that they'll require. You can always supplement with solar and wind, but frankly those typically aren't enough to service what average people need on a daily basis. So that covers services and utilities on a rural property. We also just did a video on financing, which is super important information to know on how to finance a rural property, so check that out. And of course, visit landandtitle.ca. There's so much information on there on buying a rural property or country home, so you can go check that out as well. Hope you enjoyed the video, and talk to you soon.